Gaming Bolt presents 15 annoyingly disguised loading screens. Loading screens are a part and parcel of every game these days. Even when games are installed and with all of our advancements in technology, there are times when loading screens are necessary. Of course, some developers try to mask this to not disrupt the flow of a game too much. At times, it works. Other times, we see something that's so obviously meant to disguise a loading screen as to be annoying. Yes, even if some of them can be skipped. Let's look at 15 such examples below. Helicopter Ride. Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain. As annoying as the credits for each mission can be after a while, the long helicopter rides in Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain can be excruciating. It's pretty cool that you don't have to suffer through any loading times when in the open world, but hell, does every helicopter ride, regardless of distance, have to be unskippable? Elevators. Mass Effect. The memes that resulted from this are legendary. Long story short, Mass Effect takes place in the future, with mass relay technology allowing for deep space travel and exploration. Yet, somehow, the elevators in the first game were soul-crushingly long rides to endure. There are plenty of ways to distract us during loading screens. Who thought an elevator was a good idea? And why are there so many? Elevators. Portal. Oh, for crying out loud. The Portal series is fantastic, and despite early criticisms of loading times on the PS3 for Portal 2, they run great. But for transitioning from one level to another, something about the elevators just bugs us. Maybe it's because they remind us of Mass Effect's elevators, but with even less interesting things to look at. Either way, death to elevators. Base of Operations, The Division. Ubisoft Massive has fixed a lot of problems with The Division, even when it eradicated the long load times while fast traveling or when walking down to the Underground's terminal. It's still one goal short. We're talking about entering the base of operations from the outside and the slow walk inside through the virus filter. It also doesn't help that you can't fast travel into the base of operations like with the terminal. Ship travel. Destiny. Destiny is a game where I would sarcastically say, game design is hard for any of its shortcomings. Case in point, the loading screens when moving your ship to hyperdrive travel to orbiting the planet and finally landing. Don't even get us started on joining someone who's on the same planet, which takes you back to orbit, thus repeating the process. The worst part? The ships themselves serve no other purpose than loading screens. Wormholes. Ratchet & Clank Future Tools of Destruction. For a game that takes the series to the next generation, quite literally since this is the first Ratchet & Clank for the PS3, Tools of Destruction had some annoying load screens. These were represented by wormholes, which Ratchet & Clank would travel through in their ship. However, at times they would go through multiple wormholes, seemingly attempting to one-up Destiny in obnoxiously extended space travel. Ship landing and takeoff, Mass Effect Andromeda. While we applaud BioWare for allowing us to skip the planetary transitions on the galaxy map, that doesn't change the fact that we still have to watch the Tempest landing and taking off for bigger planets. This is compounded by the inability to just enter the Tempest and do things. You have to go back into space instead of staying planetside to access the ship. Unskippable scenes, Forza Horizon. Forza Horizon 3 is a phenomenal game, but the very first game in the series had its share of annoyances. It's full of unskippable scenes, like a rival's dialogue or the retrieval of wristbands, and dialogue. The woman behind the tutorials will quickly become the bane of your existence. Maybe the cutscenes aren't exactly disguising loading times, but they sure are irritating. Now caching, Tony Hawk's Project 8. A rather hilarious thing that occurred with Tony Hawk's Project 8 back in the day is how it would create a cache when you first loaded the game. This necessitated watching that stupid intro all the way through with no skipping. If you loaded the game up a second time, then you could skip this thanks to the cached data. Just, don't take the disc out anytime soon or you'll have to repeat this entire process again. Hyperdrive, No Man's Sky. The hyperdrive in No Man's Sky will become your best friend at one point as it allows you to jump quickly to other galaxies. It eats up a lot of Heridium, but it's still essential, except when you're jumping from one galaxy to another and having to watch the same hyperdrive sequence again and again. Granted, this could be where the procedural generation part is happening, so we'll begrudgingly allow it. De-energizing locks, Metroid Prime. De-energizing locks in Metroid Prime is a clever use of the series' trademark to mask loading times. However, some doors can take longer to de-energize than others if there's a lot to load. Again, it makes sense given the series' conventions, but when it happens so much, it's one of those things that you have to get used to, not enjoy, mind you. Obligatory scenes. Deus Ex: Mankind Divided. Many complained about the game's cliffhanger ending, but the loading screens can be no less of a buzzkill in Deus Ex: Mankind Divided. Say you have an objective on the other side of the map, just past a loading screen. Cue some cutscene or another to help hide the loading time. In a way, it seems normal, but it can feel like so much busy work at times as to be annoying. Biometric security scans. Deus Ex: Human Revolution. Then again, annoying screens used to disguise loading aren't exactly absent in Human Revolution. The biometric security scans essentially act as that, though the level is obviously being loaded in the background. Forget how long these can be. In certain parts like the Missing Link DLC, you could walk through these scans several times. Watch the gunshots. Advent Rising. Advent Rising's cutscenes are pretty much standard when it comes to hiding loading screens. Sometimes they're full of dialogue and action that move the plot along, and can eventually be skipped after some time. However, there are some scenes which are just stretched shots of gunfights and explosions. Want to skip those immediately? Too bad. Buffering. Kane and Lynch 2: Dog Days. Remember the digital camcorder nonsense in the first game? Kane and Lynch 2 found a way to top that by having the buffering symbol, usually seen in YouTube videos, act as loading screens. There are some bits of dialogue at times, but why in the world would anyone use something that makes us question our connectivity as a loading screen? Just why? On the other hand, this is Kane and Lynch 2, where quality goes to die. And that'll be about it for this one. If you guys like what we're doing at Gaming Bolt, please consider subscribing to our channel, and I'll see you guys on the next video.